we're human, we are going to feel trauma, we are going to create drama, and we are going to want to call our mama. Dear Pain, I think we both underestimated each other. I underestimated your perseverance, your nuclear force to overwhelm me, and your unbroken willingness to have a place in my life. But you underestimated my tenacity too. True resilience is bouncing forward because you never get over whatever was traumatic. But you can use it to bounce forward into a life that you define.
I'm so glad you joined us today. That makes you a part of CSL Dallas, and we love that our community continues to grow. And we also love to give great spiritual content. And a way that you can participate in our community is financially give to it. It's easy to do so. Go to CSLDallas.org and hit the give button. Or you can set up a text giving mechanism at 972-954-4404, a safe and secure way to send us money whenever you watch a great message like this. So thanks for giving, and buckle up, because here comes the spiritual content.
Have you ever walked through a storm? If you've ever had to walk through a storm in your life and you're able to in this moment, I invite you to stand up. Look around. And Iva not only is standing up, but she got a hand up too. Right? Right? Look around. You're not the only one. You're not the only one who's ever walked through a storm. Now, if in walking through one of those storms you got a lesson or a blessing, then you can sit down. Look around. Look around again. There's nobody who has been through a storm, or in all the storms that we've each been through. We've got some blessings too. And so this idea this month of rising from the ashes, of being able to deal with grief and loss and pain and all of the things that happen in our human experience, we still can rise up, right? Andre Day's song, Rise Up. I'll rise up 1,000 times. I'll rise up 1,000,000 times. I will rise up just like the phoenix through the ashes, because I know that there is a truth that is bigger than whatever this experience is that right now feels like a burden, right? I don't know, I've been through my share of storms just like all of you. I mean, some of you can relate to storms like having a $4,000 car repair bill in a month where you only got $300 and you don't know where the money's coming from, yeah? Or having a relationship end in divorce or separation that you thought you would be in for the remainder of your life. Having a medical diagnosis that you cannot even imagine, and then once you are in it, you can hardly imagine a physical healing. It feels really, really, really hard. It feels painful. It feels as if there is nothing that we can do in order to be that person we know we are at our core, at the root of who we are. And so we sometimes let the burden get the best of us. We feel confused. I mean, I won't lie. I can even just say, I don't know about you. Maybe you are much stronger and much more evolved than I am. So for a minute, I'll just tell you, like, what happens to me sometimes. You know, there have been moments where I've asked, why me? And there have been moments where I have felt afraid, and there have been moments where I have felt confused, and there have been moments when I just wanted to hide. I just wanted to like go in my house and turn the phone off and get under the covers and just stay there. There have been moments where I have felt betrayed by individuals and the things that they did, and there have been moments where I have felt betrayed by all of society itself. And that is when the storm feels like a burden. That's when the storm is a barrier. That's when the storm is a block to me seeing the truth of who I am, and to me seeing the truth of a world that actually has been created for good, for my good and for good in general. So, lighting the candle today for people who have experienced pain or are currently experiencing pain as a result of the wildfires that have continued for way too long. Being able to light the candle in my heart for people who were shot in Thousand Oaks or who are friends and family members of people who were shot. Being able to maintain the light for anyone affected by cancer diagnosis or a divorce or a foreclosure. All of those things that show up in our lives. I know the burdens I've experienced. Only you know the burdens that you have experienced and the trauma. At least that's how it feels. It feels like trauma in our lives. So the song, You'll Never Walk Alone, reminds us that there have been people before us who have made the walk that we're walking and walks that are much more challenging, but they didn't do it alone. They did it with people in their spiritual community. They did it with friends and family members. They did it with strangers who reached out to help. They did it with people who prepared 102 Thanksgiving baskets so they could eat a healthy and full, bountiful meal on Thanksgiving. They did it with the help of God, acting and serving and living through the hands and hearts of other human beings. That is what happens when we experience our burdens. So the song says, when you walk through the storm, keep your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. Right, the dark may be around you, but you don't have to be afraid of it because there is something brighter. There is a light. Someone is lighting a candle, literally or figuratively, for that burden to dissolve and dissipate. Others are doing it for you, and you are doing it for yourself and for others, yes? Yeah. So if we're human, we are going to feel trauma, we are going to create drama, and we are going to want to call our mama. Right? Drama, trauma, mama. It's like, okay, I'm in the dark, I'm in a storm. We're going to feel the trauma. We're going to create drama around it if we're not healthy and if we are not able to actually ground ourselves in the spiritual truth at that time. And unless our mama is the one creating the trauma and the drama, we call on our mama, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, I don't feel good. I just wish I could call my mom. I don't feel good. This isn't good. The first person I called when I found out that I was losing my job was I called my mama, right? And all of those are good first steps because what that fear does is it leads us to fight or to flight or to freeze. We talked about that a lot, so I'm not going to go into that, but that's kind of the human nature. We're going to fight it out, we're going to run away from it or hide, or we're simply going to freeze and be immobilized, and everything else will just keep going on around us because we're in pain. And we judge that pain, and we judge ourselves, and we convince ourselves that either there's nothing we can do about it, or it's out of our control, or it is proof that our life is over. My life is over. Oh my goodness, that relationship ended. I don't know what I'll do. We're in war again as a country. That means that's just proof that that human nature is to be at war, and so we just have to fight and battle it out. We create the drama. We feel traumatized by it. We decide whether it's good or whether it's bad. Most of you have heard the fable. Alan Watts made it famous in our time, but the truth is, it's a story that goes on that was developed and has been told in Chinese culture for centuries. But the fable of the farmer who was poor, he and his son worked the farm. They had very limited resources. Their most valuable resource was a horse that they used to help work the farm, and that horse ran away, got out of the fence, disappeared. Neighbors and friends said to the farmer when they found out, "Oh, how unfortunate. Oh, what bad luck. How bad it is for you that your horse ran away." And depending on which version of the story you read or hear, the farmer said either, maybe, perhaps, or it's neither good nor bad. A day or a few days later, the horse returned. And the horse brought with it seven wild horses. The neighbors heard about it and said, "Oh, what good luck. Now you have 7 horses." And the farmer said, "Perhaps, maybe. It's neither good nor bad. We'll see." The son, in taming one of the wild horses, got thrown off the horse and broke his leg, injured. What did the neighbor say? What bad luck. Oh, that's a shame. Oh, and the farmer said, we'll see. It's neither bad nor good. Perhaps, maybe. And a few days later, the army came through, registering all of the young men to go into battle. The son was laid up with a broken leg. The army said, "Oh, can't use him." He was the only young man in the village, in the town, in that whole region that did not go to war with the very likelihood of being killed. And the neighbors came around and said, "Oh, you're so lucky, you still have your son." And the farmer said, "Maybe. It's neither good nor bad. We'll see." How is that in your life? Where things happen and you're so quick to judge them as good or bad. You're so quick to say, "Oh, I'm so lucky," or, "Oh, that was bad luck. All the bad things always happen to me." When in reality, what we know is in the constant flow of life, that life is simply evolving, life is simply presenting opportunities and experiences to us, and we get to choose how we engage ourselves with those opportunities, with those experiences. Sometimes the experiences we get are not exactly what we thought we ordered when the menu was placed in front of us. And so at that moment, we get to be like the farmer and say, isn't that interesting? This isn't quite what I ordered, but let me just wait and see how it plays out. And in the meantime, while it's playing out, let me be very clear that I live in a world where everything always works out for me. So this has to be good or leading to good, even though I cannot see it right now, even though I can't even imagine it, I must know. Because it's happened to me time and time again. I mean, every one of you stood up. You've had some storms, and every one of you sat down when you thought about the fact that at some point, one of those storms, if not all of them, there was a blessing that came from that. There was a growth that came from that. There was an expansion, an elevation that came from what seemed like your lowest lows. And then 10 years later, you look back and it was such an important turning point that you counted as one of your highest highs. Yes? Has that happened to anybody but me? Anybody besides me? So we all are going to experience pain, every one of us. Pain is part of the journey, part of the process, but we don't have to be traumatized by that pain in a way that changes everything in our lives. Actually, we can empower that pain to change everything in our lives, but in a way that moves us toward our good. In this month's Book of the Month, Bouncing Forward by Michaela Haas, one of the things that she says that made me really read the book, I will tell you a little secret. Sometimes we have our Book of the Month, right? And I think, okay, I'm speaking on the third Sunday, so let me just kind of thumb through it and see what catches my eye, and maybe that's what I'll base the talk on. But often, more often than not, I actually do read the whole book. What made me read this entire book is this phrase. In part 1, Michaela Haas titles that whole section Beyond Resilience, and this line sold me on the book. Strategies for strengthening our soul's immune system. I'm like, she's going to write about strategies? She's going to tell me how to strengthen my soul's immune system? Yeah, I want to read this. I want to see what she has to say about that. Now, what's true is that as I continued to read, I started translating that line into strategies for allowing myself to be guided by my soul's immune system. Because I really thought about it and I kept thinking, well, my soul is already 100%. And so I'm not really strengthening my soul's immune system. I'm strengthening my willingness and ability to tap into. So I'm going to use my soul's immune system as my GPS and not my drama and my trauma as my GPS, right? But that's the line that when I read it, I was like, that's really interesting. And that could be really valuable if I could learn how to use my soul's immune system when things that happen. When I have the flu, right, and I have the virus, my body's immune system kicks in order for my body to move itself back to operating from a place of wellness. So it's like, my soul has an immune system too. I just have to use it. I just have to tap into it. So that really got me into the book. And You know, what Michaela Haas does in this book is she really reminds us that our immune system is like the lyrics in the song, "You Never Walk Alone," at the end of the storm, is a golden sky and a sweet silver song of a lark. The song takes us back to nature, to our human nature, to physical nature, but also to our spiritual nature that is always seeking to operate. So if I am not afraid of the dark, and instead I listen for the song of the lark that is flying in a golden sky, guess what? I'm not going to walk through this alone, and I'm going to move into a place that actually I can see good. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, there are those days when the darkness seems to be taking over, surrounding me, but it's my job to not let it infiltrate me and become me, even if it is all around me. And so I love what Michaela Haas talks about in this section 1. And actually in all 3 sections, she talks about the dance with pain. And what is so great about this book is she doesn't just give us academic theory. She doesn't just give us her own personal thoughts. If you haven't purchased the book already, then let me tell you what this book is about. She interviewed more than 24 people. Some people you would know, they're by name, like Maya Angelou. Other people you have never heard of. But she interviewed them about some of their biggest traumas and tragedies and disasters and how they came through it. She interviewed the surfer who was at the age of 17 listed as one of the, up and coming top 10 surfers in the world, and he was paralyzed surfing at 17. And how did he come back? How did he face the world and then build a life that is amazing by all counts? What was going on in his mind and his heart, both at the beginning and all the way through the journey? She interviewed people who were in the Holocaust, and how did they navigate that, and how did they navigate afterwards? What is it that kept them positive and allowed them to build a life that had significance for themselves personally and the world? And throughout the book, she talks about what we do with our pain. So in this first section, I'm smiling because she writes a very brief letter to pain at the beginning of each of the sections. But I love this one at the beginning, because when we're just starting to work with our pain, but we realize the pain, and the pain is feels like it's taking over our life, and we're actually caught up in the trauma. Here's what Michaela says. Dear Pain, I think we both underestimated each other. I underestimated your perseverance, your nuclear force to overwhelm me, and your unbroken willingness to have a place in my life. But you underestimated my tenacity too. Signed, Hanging in There. That we start at that point of recognizing the pain exists and that it is pushing us. It is like hurting us. And then there's that moment where we go, wait a minute. You, pain, have underestimated my tenacity, my clarity, my intention, my commitment to live a life I love. You have misinterpreted the fact that I have been in pain for these last hours, days, weeks, months, or years, as if you are in charge of my life. And that is absolutely not the truth, no matter how strong the trauma is. And when you get to that point where you recognize it, you are ready to begin the walk from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth. Every one of you has a testimony about post-traumatic growth. You made it when you sat down. When I said, did you ever learn anything from a storm that was hard? Yes, you grew from it in some kind of way. And there's actually a science that's being developed about post-traumatic growth. But what do we mostly hear about? We mostly hear about post-traumatic stress syndrome and post-traumatic stress as if it is the natural way, that anytime we've been in trauma, that it's going to stay with us for the rest of our life, and it is going to be something that harms us, controls us. That's what most of us hear about. We don't hear very much about post-traumatic growth. And our spiritual practices are a big part of our opportunity to move from the trauma and the drama into growth, into the life that we want to have. And so in Bouncing Forward, that is exactly what Michaela does. The art and science of cultivating resilience told in and through the voice of 2 to 3 dozen people who have actually recognized that resilience is not bouncing back from something bad, bouncing back to the place you were before. True resilience is bouncing forward because you never get over whatever was traumatic. But you can use it to bounce forward into a life that you define. So this whole idea of am I burdened or am I blessed? I like to believe that everything that happens in my life is a blessing and is designed in order to bless my experience. So even though it is painful, I want to honor that pain. We don't teach you to ignore the pain and act like it's not there. We don't teach you to pretend that, oh, I live a spiritual life, and so, I don't know, divorce can never happen to me. I live a spiritual life. Foreclosure can never happen to me. Oh, I did my prayers. I do my prayers, my spiritual mind treatments every day, and so I can never be sick. We don't teach that. We teach that when experiences happen to us in our human life, we use spiritual principle and spiritual practice to navigate it, knowing, believing, and trusting that for every step forward I take, the universe comes behind me and pushes me toward that which is my best and highest good, whether I know it or not. That's what we teach. And so Ernest Holmes really helps us remember that in lots of ways in our primary textbook, The Science of Mind. I particularly love this poem / meditation. If you are not familiar with our textbook, at the end, near the back of it, Ernest Holmes has presented a lot of really short poems or meditations that we can use. And I really love this one when I find myself in pain, physical, emotional, or mental pain. No harm shall befall you. No harm shall befall you, my friend, for a divine presence attends your way and guards you into the all good. Loving kindness awaits you at every turn of life's road. Guidance is yours along the pathway of experience. And an infallible power protects you. God and no other is your keeper. I proclaim this for you. I'm going to read it again. No harm shall befall you, my friend, for a divine presence attends your way and guards you into the all good. Loving kindness awaits you at every turn of life's road. Guidance is yours along the pathway of experience. and an infallible power protects you. God and no other is your keeper. I proclaim this for you. I especially like the line, guidance is yours along the pathway of experience, because all of our life is just an experience after experience after experience after experience, condition after condition after condition after condition. And like the farmer in the Chinese parable, in the Zen parable, it's just an experience, it's neutral, but what we do with it is what then defines our life. So this week, I encourage you to pay attention to the experiences you are having. It's okay to define on the surface an experience as a burden, but it's not okay to leave it there. It's okay to experience something and feel, really, completely and totally feel the pain of it. But it's not okay to accept that that pain is a permanent part of who you are. Because who you are is an amazing being that is more than anything you could imagine. And everything that happens in your life is a part of your special, unique experience. It is a gift to you for your own growth, for your own expansion, and to help you be someone who can bring some more light to not only your life, but to the entire world. So are you burdened or are you blessed? It's up to you. Let's go into prayer together. In this moment, I recognize that there's only one life. That life is God. That life is spirit. That life is the universal expression of love, joy, beauty, wholeness, harmony, unity. And that life is my life now and the life of every person within the sound of my voice. In fact, that life is the life of everything that is alive, whether it is a tree, a plant, a flower, the sun, the galaxies, the planets. And I speak this word knowing that life is simply seeking to express itself. And that life is expressing itself in ways known and unknown, in ways I understand and in ways that I can never understand. But I believe that it is all working together for good. There is no power of evil, there is only a power for good, and it is always available, and it is always expressing. So this week, walking into and walking through the human experience, let it be clear and let it be known and let it be celebrated that life is a blessing. And let each trauma be transformed, be the seed of transformation into post-traumatic growth. As each rises like the phoenix into a life that works for each individual perfectly, and a life that creates a world that works for all. I'm so grateful for knowing that this is the truth that is seeking to express in, as, and through me, and in, as, and through everyone present. And for that, I have the deepest gratitude. So from that gratitude, I release this into the truth of being, into the truth of expression. And I invite you, if you agree that this is your truth as well, to join me by saying together, And so it is.